Hey, we're your hosts.
I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we believe that one of the most valuable gifts you can give to yourself is the gift of wholeness through integrating all aspects of what it means to be human.
And in this podcast, we're bringing you insight, information, and inspiration to move from a stressful to stress-free life.
Your journey to becoming even healthier and happier starts right now.
Welcome to Wellness Theory, the podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. Today I'm joined by Antonia Bates, who is the co-founder of Studio New, which is a design firm that specialises in creating spaces that promote overall well-being, and is also the co-founder of the Healthy Entrepreneur Club, which is where she's building a movement of entrepreneurs to develop their business and health with her partner Freddie, who was on the show earlier this year. So I'm super excited to have, can I say, the better half on the show? Welcome, Antonia.
Yeah, why not? It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to jump into this conversation with you because I think you've got some really unique insights that will really help our audience, just everybody really. I think this conversation is going to be relevant too, but particularly obviously for entrepreneurs that might be getting stuck in a bit of stress and hustle right now. Because you're on a really cool mission with the Healthy Entrepreneur. And honestly, I think if I cared enough about other people's businesses as much as I care about my own, I think this would have been a track that maybe we would have pursued in a parallel life or something. But I think you and Freddie, particularly for obviously the Healthy Entrepreneur, have like a really unique skill sets that you brought together to be able to really do this and smash it. And I'm really loving what I'm seeing, and it's only really just the beginning. So I'm very excited to jump in. And I'd love for you to perhaps share a bit more about you, just yourself and your background for our listeners that might be hearing you for the first time.
Yeah, so I've always been very creative growing up and also very sporty. So I've been very active with my gymnastics. It's a massive, big part of my life. And then I went to university to do textile and interior design. And during this, I was coaching gymnastics. So I was coaching for adults and children on all ages, all abilities, in the southwest of England. So that was the same club that I actually trained in as well. And then this was alongside university, as I said, but also during this time we went backpacking around Europe 1 year, and then we went backpacking around Asia, Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea. So I got a lot of my inspiration with design and for university for my projects through different cultures and learning about different countries and people from around the world. And then after uni, I went to teach gymnastics full-time. So again, I did part-time, but I went full-time doing teaching adults and children, again, all abilities, all ages. And then I found my corporate job. So that was my first proper interior design job after university. And I was there for about 4.5, 5 years. And this was for show homes mainly. Show homes around the UK, and we also did a few private clients. We did a few marketing suites, a few office spaces, but it was mainly show homes. And I always kind of thought it's very shallow. It's a very shallow kind of way of designing, because you'd be given like a cookie cutter kind of house where you're paint this wall one color or put this cushion here. There was like no depth to it, and I was always really interested in the depth to design and how the environment affects you mentally and physically, and I was just really interested in the science behind everything. So then I decided to start Studio New online only alongside this, and I designed homes, designed offices, designed psychotherapy rooms, physiotherapy rooms, all online. This was all design only, so we would literally take the brief from them, have an online call, take the brief, give them a shopping list of everything to buy themselves, but also a mood board, and then how different areas of parts of the design would affect certain areas. So this would promote more productivity, this would promote better sleep or interaction or certain things. So I found that really fascinating. And then we went into property development, Freddie and I. So we started to buy properties and flip them, but we would live in them at the same time. So we would buy like the worst looking house on the street, or like the nicest street that we thought would be like a nice area. So we would put life back into this property. And as I said, we would be living in them, in the houses at the same time. We had a visualization of the end goal that we knew that we could bring life back into that property. We knew that we could like do this and this, and it would create less stress, less anxiety within the whole environment. And also we would also be creating or designing it so that we could sell it on for another family to then put their stamp on things. But as I said, we were living in it at the same time, and we'd have friends coming over who would make comments and say, oh my gosh, how are you living in this? Because it would be an absolute building site sometimes. And we would invite our parents over for a cup of tea, and they'll be like, are you sure? Like, maybe you can come over to our house because it's not very nice at your house. And we'd be so excited because we wanted to show them different areas, like, oh, we did this to the garden, we built this fence or this shed, or like, we've got this new thing in the bathroom. And they'll be like, okay. And so you could tell that they were like a little bit worried about our health. And so we're obviously juggling this, juggling Studio New, juggling our 9-to-5 jobs. And we just realized that we were feeling very stressed and very anxious and at the risk of burning out. So what I like to do, as I said, I like to look at how the science and certain things within the environment that you can manipulate can reduce the stress and anxiety and burnout. And I would experiment within these homes. So I would be living in, Freddie and I would be living in these homes, and I would experiment with certain things to see if that can reduce our stress and anxiety and help with social interactions and different things. And so we realized that obviously we're experiencing burnout and that we're not really enjoying the process. So we thought something had to change. And during this realization, we actually had our car accident, which was the catalyst for change. And that kind of flipped a switch in our heads. And we went on, just like going back, we actually went on holiday to Dubai the year before the car accident to see my brother. He's also an entrepreneur in Dubai. And we realized how cool it would be to live here one day, or to have a business. We knew that we wanted to go full time into Studio New and have our own business. And we were like, yeah, like one day we'll live abroad, maybe somewhere in the world, maybe Denmark, maybe somewhere else in Europe, maybe Dubai. But we saw the opportunities here in Dubai were pretty cool. So we were like, well, maybe one day we'll live in Dubai. The catalyst, or the car accident being the catalyst, was kind of the decision maker for us. So in the space of 3 months of the car accident, we ended up selling everything, selling our house, moved to Dubai, fully launched Studio New in Dubai. And so that's like the Studio New side of it. And then in Dubai, we in the first 6 or 7 months, we actually designed and fit out six offices. And during this time, we were looking at like the employee well-being, so how we can improve stress, anxiety, promote collaboration, productivity within the workplace. But also we were looking at the employer, or like the business owner themselves as well, and realized that they're juggling so many things. They're feeling stressed and tired and burning out, or at the risk of burning out. And so we thought, well, we went through that process ourselves. Like, we felt that burnout and stress whilst building our business in the UK. And also we know the power of the environment and how we can manipulate certain things to reduce all of this. We can actually help you here, because we obviously, with our background in health and fitness as well, which we might go into in a minute, but we thought that having a healthy body and a healthy mind and a healthy environment can really help with your mindset. And so that's kind of how the Healthy Entrepreneur Club came about. So we're bringing our fitness backgrounds and our business backgrounds and like the whole healthy environment background all in one.
I love it so much. There's so many things that I want to ask you just there. So tell us, like, first of all, like, what was that stress, burnout and anxiety? Like, how did that manifest for you? Because obviously, you know, you said you was at a point where you was really starting to feel it, and then the car accident happened. And I always find it interesting, because sometimes if we don't listen to our bodies and listen to our situation, something drastic has to happen to wake us up and really pay attention. So like, what was that experience like before the accident? Like, what was some of perhaps the signs and symptoms that you noticed?
So like the red flags for us, like we're all about like understanding your red flags, especially when it comes to burnout. So we just felt very like lacking energy. We'd be going to the gym, but we weren't fully like working hard. It was just more of a tick box. Or we would be neglecting friendships and relationships, and it was just, we thought we're young, we're in our 20s, we need to be enjoying life and enjoying the process, and life's too short for that. And then we didn't actually necessarily act on that thought straight away. So like you said, like the car accident, unfortunately, having such a traumatic experience was like the big kick up the butt that we needed to make us realize that life's too short. Like, enjoy the process, do something else with it, have some adventure. But yeah, so like I remember, it sounds really silly, I remember one of the days when we were renovating one of the properties, and the Hoover broke, and it was like the cherry on top of the cake. And I remember just sitting down in the middle of an empty room, and there was just so much stuff everywhere, and the plaster had just been, so it was just like a horrible environment. The air quality, everything was just horrible. And I remember just sat next to the Hoover, like, oh my gosh, like something needs to change. And I was just crying, and I just thought, like, that is it, like something needs to happen, something needs to change. Just a silly thing that made me realize that I'm not that happy.
I think we can all relate to that cherry on the top moment somehow, in some way. We call those like stress explosions, where it's all just stacked up to a point where it's like the smallest little thing that normally you wouldn't even blink over just suddenly gets us and makes us have these like aha moments as well. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's definitely relatable. With regards to the environment that you said, what did you notice when you said you was doing some of those experiments in and around the house, to see, you know, what had what reaction and what helped to improve your sleep and your interactions and that kind of thing? What things can you pull out that perhaps really resonate with reducing stress or anxiety?
So definitely having a clutter-free home. I think that's probably like the most obvious one. Having a space that actually promotes who you are and shows your characteristics and personality, and not pretending to be someone else. I think especially with the show home designing, but also when we had clients coming to us saying, I want this exact Pinterest board, and we're like, are you sure? Like that's quite boring. Like, it looks amazing and it's nice and trendy and it's on trend, whatever, but that's not really representing who you are and your values as a person. So I think definitely that, but also having a clutter-free home, reduce it. Like, clutter-free desk, for example, reduces the clutter in your mind. Like, I always clear my desk every morning, and if I have a messy house, I just can't function. Like, I have to fully clean and tidy the house. Also, like, for me, adding a lot of natural materials within the environment helps with a stress-free, calm environment and natural light. I think a lot of it comes from my Scandinavian heritage as well. So I'm half Danish, and growing up, I would go to my cousins' houses in Denmark every year, and I would just love how Scandinavian it was, and how it was just like beautiful, streamlined furniture, but also ergonomic furniture. It was all very functional, but also looked amazing, and it was very minimal, so very minimalistic. For me, that's helped with stress and anxiety, just having a minimal, clutter-free space that actually portrays who I am as a person.
It's so interesting. I think the clutter one is something that's like almost an easy win. I think anybody can like clear their desktop or their dresser or whatever, and it's almost like a really subconscious effect that it will have. But it's interesting what you said there around like it matching who you are and being part of your identity. So I'm a true believer that the more we can live authentically to ourselves, like the more we flow through life. And I think if we can create our living space like that as well, you actually genuinely do feel at home when you get home. It's funny because we when we first moved to the UAE, John and I actually wasn't together then, but we both were living in like apartments that we knew we would probably just be in for a year. We didn't know how long we really was going to stay, and then we would like move based on the work we was doing and things like that. So we never really, neither one of us really paid attention to our living space. Like really, like, yes, we made sure we had what we needed in it, but we never really thought about the design element to it or anything like that. And I think in hindsight, those were times for both myself and for Jonathan that we was actually super stressed. And we was, at our point of almost crumbling in our own unique ways at that time. And I wonder, had we paid more attention to things like that, whether it would have influenced our ability to kind of just rein it in and be a bit more preventative rather than reactive to our experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so many people say that your environment dictates performance, but that's not just your social circle. That is your actual physical environment and things around you, from colors, from materials, from where furniture's placed, your actual floor plan, spatial planning. So many things can actually affect the psychology. I know when I moved to Dubai with Freddie, like, it was I felt extremely anxious. I obviously wanted to do it, and it was a thing that we both really wanted to do, but it was at the same time getting used to different cultures and different smells and different supermarkets and just like a whole different environment. that didn't feel like home, that for us creating a home was so important, and the place for us to actually portray who we are and our values, and bringing our English home and English family into our everyday life in Dubai. That really helped with our stress and anxiety as we moved here as well.
That's really important for any of our listeners as well, because we do have a lot of expats that listen to this, whether those expats are living in Dubai or somewhere else in the world. It can be really important to let that essence come through. I think that's a really good takeaway for anyone listening, because it's not an obvious one. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Antonia, as you know, this podcast is all about improving our ability to deal with stress and pressures of daily life in pursuit of goals. And there are a lot of people that are listening to us really are striving for things that are important to them. They want to live a life of high performance, but sometimes stress can kind of get in the way of that. And we talk a lot about the difference between healthy stress and unhealthy stress. Now, if anyone's qualified to talk about stress and performance, it's you, because there's a part of your story that you didn't perhaps touch upon yet with us, which is around you growing up as an athlete and a bit more about your gymnastic background. So could you share with us what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I did gymnastics growing up. So that literally consumed my life. I started gymnastics when I was 4 or 5 years old. My sister was my main inspiration for starting this. I used to go and watch her at competitions at the weekends, and on the sidelines I'd be making up my own little floor routines, like to the music when her and her competitors were competing. And so my mum and dad decided to put me into gymnastics, and I gradually went up the levels and got into county squad, then Southwest squad in the UK. Then I was selected for England squad, and I was in England squad for quite a few years, going to different England training camps, and then selected for, I remember my first international competition, and that was in Belgium. And so obviously a lot of training went into that. But I think, what was that like growing up as an athlete? I think for me, it was just learning how to balance that stress and the nerves at such a young age. I think that's quite an unusual skill or some unusual pressure for someone so young to actually have to deal with. For me, also discipline and sacrifice were a big deal. So juggling time, I had strict routines. I had a strict weekly time schedule, and especially with school and then exams creeping in and then training. So I'd be training 4 o'clock until about half past 8 every day. Tuesdays, I remember I would be training 7.5 hours. So I'd come out of school to train. Weekends I would train, and then school holidays it would be 7 or 8 hours every single day. So it was a really full-on hardcore schedule. But yeah, for me, balancing school life, gym life, social life, and sacrificing some parties with school friends after school, going to their house or the school disco and things. So it was just balancing all of that, so still having that childhood experiences, but also knowing that I had potential, and actually pursuing that potential, not letting it go to waste. My mum and dad were really supportive when it came to that. So they always said to me, if I wanted to quit, it was absolutely fine. They were never pushy parents. And I had witnessed what pushy parents are like. And that is so damaging for gymnasts, but also other athletes now. But my mum and dad always said, you can quit, but only quit on a good day. So don't come out of the gym crying and say you want to quit, because we'll wait until you've had a good day, and then we'll ask you the same question. And then if you really want to quit, then absolutely. But yeah, so it's, I think, I was actually thinking about this the other day, what actually, growing up as an athlete, what was it like for me? Just dealing with that stress, dealing with the nerves, how to cope with it, and all that pressure from exams, from competitions. And I wasn't really wanting to make anybody, obviously I want to make my friends and my family and my coach proud, but for me, I was doing it for myself. I wanted to make myself proud. I wanted to reach my goals. And because of that, I had that vision, and I had that motivation and that discipline to get there.
Yes, so unique.
Yeah,
definitely. So unique, the fact that you had that sense of purpose, support, discipline, consistency, drive at such a young age. I think that's such a gift. God, I remember my childhood. I wish I'd had something that would have kept me out of trouble. Honestly, I think it's so powerful, because you've been able to experience such a different way of life, right? And approaching life and stressful situations in unique ways. So we know that stress is sometimes unresourceful, and it can lead us down a path that isn't healthy for us. But then there's other types of stress, like you've just described, that, you know, is you moving toward your goals and, you know, being really focused and being disciplined and being able to follow through for yourself, but for your country and for the people that have supported you along the way to some extent. Like, how do you keep walking that line so it stays as resourceful as possible?
So for me, I think the obvious one is that I have such a supportive family and a supportive system around me. So I have quite a big family, and all my siblings are very sporty ourselves. So I think having supportive parents and a supportive family were crucial, and having that positive environment as well. My mum always made our home super positive, like promoting happiness and just proper family time. So for me, that was a big deal in helping with stress. Also, I always had the passion for the sport, so that passion was always there, and also knowing that I could quit if I wanted to, but on a good day. And again, like goal setting and visualization is a massive one as well for keeping that stress at bay. So with my coach, I used to always write down, we had a diary, so after every session we would write down how that session went, what was good, what was bad, what could we improve, what's our goals for tomorrow or next week or the next year. And we do that consistently every single session. And I actually still do that now. So I had a massive gap in my life where I didn't do it, but 4 years ago I started writing down 1 line a day, and I do this before bed every single evening. And I literally it's a way for me to clear my thoughts and just relieve that stress from my body. Clear my head, write down anything I'm thinking. Even if I don't have any thoughts, just like write down what I've done that day, or what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I've done. And this book is actually really cool because I can actually look back a year ago to the day, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and see how much I've improved each year, or like how much my life has changed and developed over the years, which is pretty cool to see. But going back to like visualization, that also helps with the stress and dealing with that. We had to spend time visualizing before competitions, even like just lying in bed, like visualizing you doing the perfect routine, or before even just before training, like before you're doing a difficult skill or even like a basic skill. Like we have to visualize us doing it properly, because what separates a gymnast from an elite gymnast is that consistent performance, and and the skills actually being done well as well, consistently. So why is that? It's because they're confident, and how? It's because they're getting the reps in. But then there's only so many hours in a training session that you can get a certain amount of reps in. So that's where you add in visualization, to add in those reps, to then increase confidence, which is a big gold circle. So you're getting the reps in visually and physically, which then helps with confidence and then helps remove the stress.
There's so many things of what you've said in there that are iconic in personal development today, right? And it's clearly come from, you know, those kind of disciplines and those elite levels of performance and like dedication to a discipline. And there's so much there that I can already hear showing up in the entrepreneurial space, you know. And I think one of the things that you said really resonates with quitting. Like only quit on a good day. Like how many entrepreneurs need to hear that, or how many employees need to hear that? How many people, just regardless of their work, need to hear, okay, everybody wants to quit sometime, but only do it on a good day. Like imagine the different kind of decision making that would happen as a result of that. I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like you said, it's so easy to quit when you're not seeing results straight away, but momentum builds in silence. And so if you're not consistently pushing through and consistently maybe writing down, that probably helps, writing down what's happened, what's done well, what have you done that's a small win, and consistently celebrating those small wins, then that obviously can be quite discouraging. Then obviously you'd want to quit if you're not actually seeing results straight away. So yeah, momentum builds in silence is a massive thing that we always say, and just building those small habits all the time, which again, anybody, not just athletes, but anybody in the entrepreneurial world or just in general should do.
I love how you was also journaling at such a young age. Obviously it wasn't called journaling, it was like you had your diary, you did like answer the questions. I wonder, is there any correlation between when you were burnt out and when you had the gap in your journaling?
You know what, yeah. I think there was. Yeah, I actually started journaling, I think it was like just after like the second or third lockdown in the UK. And I think it was like the second lockdown in the UK. And I think if you're actually looking back now, like the stress and the burnout that we actually felt was just all stored in my head. And so I couldn't actually offload it. So yeah, you're right. Not properly thought of that, but definitely. Yeah.
There's a lot of like research to back up that when we journal, we are, like you've said, it's like we're releasing that energy. It might not suddenly resolve all of your problems, but it creates space and increases that level of bandwidth that we have, that we can then show up, which increases our window of tolerance and our resilience levels. And that obviously then carries forward into other areas of life. So no matter what the thing is that you're journaling about, you know, and like you said, it could be just whatever's on your mind that day. It could be some structured questions. It doesn't matter. Do what feels right for you at the time is always the best advice. And for some people, that's like writing a letter to the thing that's driving you nuts or whatever, you know, or writing a letter of thanks for such a great day to somebody that's been part of it or something like that. It can really shift just by like 1 or 2 degrees your whole direction of life, and it calms and soothes your nervous system so deeply that you can actually then start to show up with high levels of discipline and that little bit more commitment, because now you've got the energy your energy is not being wasted on trying to entertain all of these thoughts and all this stress. Or now you've got all of this great juice that you can go and use on something else. So, and speaking of which, like, what has translated the most for you, both personally and professionally, from all of your experiences that we talked about until now?
So for me, definitely goal setting. I think Freddie might get fed up of me saying like, we need to set goals, like we need to do something. I need something to work towards. And yeah, so definitely goal setting, and then like creating those small steps to get there, like small achievable steps to get there. To help you stay on track. So definitely that, but also again having a supportive environment. Your environment dictates your performance, and also staying true to your passion, staying true to what you love. For me, that was exactly like, if I had to take that from gymnastics, I was so passionate about gymnastics, and that kept me going. And then now I'm so passionate about health and fitness and helping entrepreneurs live a healthy lifestyle, and also how your environment can actually affect all of that as well. People don't really know about that. And just helping people reduce that stress and anxiety, because I've seen it firsthand. I've done it myself, reduced that. So definitely taking that through to today, personally and professionally, but also discipline. So understanding the value of consistent effort, and that momentum builds in silence, and that creating that 1% more every single day, small wins every single day. And healthy choices, definitely as well. So obviously, being an elite athlete, you have a very strict diet. So my diet definitely isn't what it was back then, because that was very strict. Like, our coaches would have to like check our lunch boxes. It was very full on. But for me now, I understand how nutrition and how sleep and how different healthy choices and moving my body and going for morning walks and reducing screen time really helps with your mindset and how you show up as well. So for me, if I move my body, I show up differently. I have more energy, and I can actually be the person who I want to be. So having that positive mental attitude and moving your body and staying true to your passion.
Nice. And you're definitely staying true to your passion with your mission now at Healthy Entrepreneur. I said this at the start of the conversation, but I really, really, really love what it is you're doing, because there's such a need for it. And I think it does take unique skill sets to be able to do this and pull it off in the way that you are, because you've got quite a deep business background, particularly with Freddie's experience combined in there, as well as your own entrepreneurial journey, but then bringing your health and fitness side of things and your specialities into the mix with environment and everything. It's just this like really beautiful cocktail that I think is necessary. It's not a nice thing, it's a necessary thing that happens to be really nice. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's something that I think not just Dubai has been waiting for, but I think this is something that's really, really prevalent for every entrepreneur. Because we're seeing more and more entrepreneurs come up now, and the younger generations are deciding they don't want to necessarily go and work for big companies or corporates, and they want to live on their own time. But sometimes there's no roadmap for that, and not in a way that supports health and well-being. Any business accelerator I've ever been part of since being an entrepreneur has been more of a hustle and grind vibe all about it. He's been very, very masculine energy dominated as well, which tends to then neglect a lot of the nurture elements of what we really need to thrive as human beings. So I'd love for you to perhaps share a little bit more about the movement, the Healthy Entrepreneur, and you've kind of alluded to it a bit already as to like why it came about and what are you seeing now since you've been here, particularly in this region.
Yeah, so obviously when we were designing and fitting out offices for business owners, we could sense that stress. And obviously you can hide, as an entrepreneur, you can hide that stress as much as you can, but stress is contagious. So the employees would feel that stress, and definitely like when you're with your friends and family, you can catch that stress from them. And so we realized that the people that we're speaking to, their time management is generally quite poor, or they're working on things that they don't actually need to be working on, that they could outsource, and that's not helping with their stress or their burnout issues. Also, another thing that we see that I definitely struggled with was guilt for taking time away from the business. When we first came here, we launched Studio New here. It was already running online, but we launched it here in Dubai, and I felt guilty for taking time away from my desk to go to the gym or to go for a walk or just spend 2 hours out of my whole day to like self-develop or just do something for myself. Because I thought, if I'm sat at my desk, I'm working, when in reality I'm sat at my desk and probably just procrastinating, because I didn't necessarily have that goal that I should have had. Or it's like Parkinson's law, where if you're given 4 hours, for example, to complete a project, you're going to get it done in 4 hours. If you're given 2 days, you're going to spread it out and get it done in those 2 days. So what we say is try not to feel guilty, create that healthy hustle week, and try every day to have like 3 or 4 hours of deep work every single day. For us, it's in the morning, 4 hours of deep work after our morning walk, and then in the evenings we tend to go to the gym, and afternoons are for other things. But I think another thing that we've noticed is, as a recurring theme, social media adding that extra pressure on people's lives, not just business owners, but I think everybody. Like, there's so much pressure in creating that perfect life. And I think with the healthy lifestyle as well, having that 5 a.m. club, or having specific diets, or having to walk like 20 million steps a day that you have to hit on your watch, like, it's so unrealistic for every single person to hit that. It might be great for some people, but for other people that adds so much pressure for them to think, to be healthy, I need to do that. Whereas for us, we're saying there's no cookie cutter solution. There's no like one size fits all for people. Some people might work better later on in the evening and wake up later. Some people prefer the 5 a.m. club and go to bed earlier. And so for us, I think it's more raising awareness that there's no one size fits all. It's auditing your life and your business, seeing what works for you, and seeing what you can cut out the fluff, and turn up the dial on what actually makes you happy and what makes you healthy.
I love everything about that answer. I really do. There's so many things in there that already our listeners can take away for sure. But I think like social media is definitely a big one. And yes, for everybody. But I also think from a business owner standpoint or an entrepreneur standpoint, like, there's so much pressure. It's like you have to be present everywhere. You've got to show your life everywhere. And early on, like, so Wellness Theory has been launched for, I think, 4 years now. So we, in the first kind of year or two, we spent a lot of time creating social media content. This was obviously 4 years ago, so it's a bit different to what it is now. And it was a big part of what we did. And we got to a point where it was like, we're not content creators. That's not what we're here for. We're wasting so much time doing this. And it was just like, and I don't want to show myself like eating every meal that I have or going out with friends. Like, I don't need to show everything on social media. Like, and there's this expectation that you should, and then there's like almost like this fear of missing out on business, missing out on people, like missing out on what other people are up to. And it was just so unhealthy. And like other entrepreneurs that I knew at the time were experiencing the same kind of thing, and it's just become worse. Like, fortunately, like, we, as our listeners know, we dipped out and we ended up going to stay in Thailand for a couple of years. And I think that definitely helped to keep at bay that way of thinking, because it was like, it didn't matter as much. Nothing matters as much when you're living on a beach, right? I guess. It was just that time allowed us as entrepreneurs to really realign ourselves with who we are and how we want to show up, the lifestyle we want to be having. And that's played a massive part, because since coming back to the UAE, there's none of that old hustle grind mindset. It has been so, don't get me wrong, it's been busy and there's been challenges since coming back, but it's been flowing, you know, and it's been on our terms. Like, there's, in terms of like setting boundaries for things and just like lifestyle choices and things like that, there's like it is guilt-free now. And before, like you, it would have been the same thing. It's like, oh well, like tonight, for example, I've got a yin yoga and sound healing thing. I've got appointments pretty much like for the rest of the afternoon after you today, but I've got a few pressing things that need to happen before Monday, and I'm supposed to be taking a long weekend Friday to Tuesday this week. So it's like, okay, what choice am I going to make? Am I going to give up that class tonight, or am I going to respect my own boundaries and actually push back on certain expectations? And I'm happy with being guilt-free about that now, whereas before, like, I might have even rescheduled this conversation because I would have tried to like hustle and contract and try and get everything done as quickly as I could. But yeah, the things that I enjoy the most is showing up and having conversations like you, with you, to go to this class, to be able to, you know, do it all essentially. And I don't believe we can all do it all. I think it just takes a lot of strategy to be able to do so. And you mentioned something there about not wasting time on the fluff. What is the fluff that entrepreneurs need to look out for? And like, what's the fluff and what's the focus?
So the focus would be what is actually making you happy, what's making you healthy, what's making you money. And the fluff are the things that you can outsource, or the things that you don't necessarily need to do. So like, could you, for example, outsource that content creation, or could you outsource various other things within your business? It's understanding what you should be working on, what is going to get you to your goals. So yeah, that's what we say, like, cut out the fluff, cut out the things that aren't actually serving you, that aren't actually making you happy. And then turn up the dial on the things that would actually make you money, make you happy, make you healthy. And by doing that, by actually creating or doing an audit, a life audit and a business audit, to see what are your goals, what are your passions, can actually help with understanding what you should be cutting out and what you should be actually turning up the dial on. I mean, we say that there's like no work-life balance within entrepreneurship. It's more for a 9-to-5 employee lifestyle. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't live a healthy lifestyle. Like, you should have that healthy hustle, and spend the appropriate time on certain things. So the appropriate time on self-development, appropriate time on going to the gym, going for a walk, self-care, and then appropriate time on nurturing your clients and delivering, and just various different things, content creation, having that authority through social media, if that's what you're doing. Like, it's understanding what your business needs and spending that appropriate time doing that.
Yeah, and that appropriate time is different for everyone, and that's what I think is so important and unique about what you guys do, because like you said earlier, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It is a get to know yourself as an entrepreneur and get to know what your needs are so you can meet your needs. So I think there's so many people out there with unmet needs in general, and I think as soon as we layer on the added pressure of now having to be perhaps like the sole entrepreneur that's going to now go and support your family, that just like takes it to a whole nother level. So you've obviously mentioned it a few times here, it's like the healthy hustle, right? And I absolutely swear by this. I love it. I think it's a great concept. And I would describe it as like the dance between letting things happen and making things happen in a way that is enjoyable, right? But like, what is the one, like what's your definition of a healthy hustle? But then like, what are some of the factors that are contributing to the opposite right now that perhaps you haven't mentioned? Like, what are people really struggling with?
So what is a healthy hustle? So that is where you can, the areas that you should be spending, like I said, spending your appropriate time on doing. So we actually say that you should be spending time on you. So your health, your mindset, your self-care, going for a walk, going to the gym, family time, friends time, all of that. And then we say nurture. So nurture is a massive thing for entrepreneurs, nurturing your old clients, new clients, existing clients. And then we say product development, so developing your offer, developing your product all the time. And then authority, so getting your message out there and showing that you're credible and that you're like the go-to person or the thought leader within your industry to be able to talk about what you're talking about. So if you actually break those down, like within the our services and the membership, we actually have systems for each one of those things. But if you actually break those things down, every entrepreneur could do with spending a certain amount of time on you, a certain amount of time on nurture, a certain amount of time on product development, and then on authority. Obviously, there'll be other things that you add in there within that, like adding in podcasts. I guess that's part of authority if you think about it, but adding in different things. But it's understanding how much time you should be spending. So what we like to do is 4 hours of deep work in the morning, and that is more on like self-development and product development. And in the afternoon, we do a little bit of you time in the morning with our half an hour walk or hour walk. But yeah, product development in the morning for like 4 hours, and then in the afternoon we'll do nurture, we'll do what was the other one I said? Nurture and product and you time.
Yeah, you said
nurture,
that.
product, you, and completely forgotten.
Nurture.
Yeah, it's nurture, product, you, and authority, obviously.
Authority. And this is why I say you should make it spell a word like that we can always remember. I'm the same. We have our like Magic 8, our wellness wheel, which is basically part of our health pillar of our stress awareness period. I'm sure our listeners have heard us talk about all the time. And every time, because there's 8 of them, I'm like, John, what was it? It's still today. We're like 4 years in now. So I'm with you.
Human, it's fine.
Exactly. So it's interesting that you say that as well, because like the way in which you kind of put yours in there. So I'm kind of the opposite. So I have a bit of self-development time first thing in the morning, and then it as in like more of like the mental and emotional reflection, I guess, first thing in the morning. Then it's the more of the physical side of things, nurturing, going to the gym, training, that kind of thing. Then I get into the kind of product business side of thing, and then it's back into and authority is part of that for me. I kind of combine the two, and then evening is going back to like relationships and nurturing again, really, I guess.
Yeah.
So what am I missing there? Is it all in there? Is it somewhere? Yeah, this kind of stuff.
Nurture, product.
Exactly, it's in there. So what are some of the like biggest challenges that you've seen with entrepreneurs? So you said you've seen people obviously like stressed, overwhelmed, burnt out since you came here, which is kind of what's inspired this movement. But I know there's some key things that you've spoken about before, like you said about guilt, but you've also mentioned, I've heard you speak about loneliness as well as entrepreneurs. Is this a big factor that you're seeing that leads into an unhealthier hustle?
Yeah, so I think mental and physical health for entrepreneurs can be quite a taboo subject, because you want to come across as a confident person, a confident business owner. And I think when you're dealing with that stress or that anxiety or not being able to make time to move your body and get out there and socialize, I think that can be quite lonely, because you're just keeping it all in, you're keeping it all to yourself. So that is one thing that we definitely noticed, and that we would like to try and alleviate through the Healthy Entrepreneur Club, is creating that that social side of it, and know that you can actually talk about your mental health and that your physical health, and that if you actually talk about it and relieve it, then you're going to produce better results. So rather than keeping it in and feeling lonely and not being able to talk to anybody, or no stress relief hacks or how to create that healthy hustle and put in that you time and reduce that guilt, I think that's what we're mainly focusing on. So just try and raise awareness that you can actually talk about your health and your mental health and your mindset without feeling like you're vulnerable in a way. So
having a community where there's you're not going to be judged, I think is so powerful. And I think it's something that there's more and more spaces popping up to be able to do that, which I absolutely love to see. But it still takes a lot of courage, I think, for somebody to actually step up and say, hey, I need help with my business, right? A lot of people, one thing I've noticed, so I'm not a business coach by any means, but because we've been doing this for a while now, every now and again we'll do some kind of like business mentoring with people that want to basically create something similar to what we've created, and that are on a really, really synergistic mission to what we are. And one of the things that I found is often a lot of people will show that they are more successful externally to what's going on internally. So the minute you start looking at like the numbers, how they're feeling, how they're showing up, what they feel confident to lean into and what they don't, it all comes back to some kind of like authenticity challenge or an identity challenge with who they are and then how they're showing up. And that's where a lot of imposter syndrome starts to really rear its ugly head, right? Because it's very common, it's natural that everybody experiences that, but the more you try and put on a mask for the outside world, or even a close mentor or something like that, you know, you're going to just create even more friction and tension within yourself, which is energy that could be better spent somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, like when you say that, putting on that mask or not actually owning who you are, that also relates to your environment as well. If we go back to interior design, like I said, when clients come to us and say, I want this exact Pinterest board in my house, and we're like, hang on, is that actually portraying who you are and what your values are? And you're hiding, you're not hiding, or like actually hiding, but you're not actually representing who you are, being yourself, and then you're not necessarily going to feel at home in your space. So it's the same thing, like owning who you are and owning where you're at. And I think if you're like, for example, within business, if you're actually owning where you're at in your journey, it's not necessarily seen as vulnerable. I mean, it could be, but it's not, because people would actually like to follow your journey and follow where you're going to get to. People love a story as well. So I think it's important for people to actually own who they are and where they are in their journey, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So, Antonia, you've mentioned, you mentioned loads already, which is amazing, but one of the things you said that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is time management, and you've spoken strongly about goal setting. So if somebody was thinking about goals and time management and planning, what would you suggest? And I know, you know, I haven't like prepped you for this question today, but like just putting you on the spot, is there any particular plan that you would advise somebody to perhaps think about if they wanted to start thinking about perhaps 2024 as an entrepreneur that wants to be healthier?
So what we would say is obviously aligned with your passion and your like create a goal. To create either a 10-year goal, 5-year goal, 1-year goal, and then or even like next month goal, and break them down into smaller achievable steps. So even if you're doing, like I said, each day 1% more each day, people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do in the long term. So if you actually have a goal in that's actually achievable each day, then you're more likely to stay motivated to then try and complete the next goal and the next step and the next step. If you give yourself a small goal, that leads towards your big goal. But if you give yourself a small goal on one day and it's difficult to achieve, then you're going to lack that confidence and lack that motivation, and you're more likely to give up. So so what we say is know your 10-year goal, know your 5-year goal, your 1-year goal, stay true to your mission, vision, passion, your values, and break it down to the smaller steps, smaller achievable steps, staying consistent. Consistency is a massive thing. And then just try and do 1% better each day, and also track what you're doing as well. So if you're journaling or on, I don't know, people track on different ways on their phones, like just track everything that you're doing 1% better each day, and try and find an accountability partner or accountability group to push you and support you. And if you have any questions, bounce ideas off, but to keep you on track, for sure. Accountability, small steps, 1% more, all of that.
I like the way you've described the like basically periodization of like goal setting, like spoken like a true athlete for sure. Like okay, you taking me back to my like trainer days now of like mapping out the goals that way. And you also talk about the 1% every day. Funny enough, so the brand that I used to coach under before I joined forces with Jonathan with the wellness theory was called Kaizen, which is all about 1% continuous development every day. And that is literally like, is it this tattoo? Yeah, this is what this tattoo means in Japanese. And it's like it's something that I like live and breathe as a personal value, that 1% every day. Because sometimes I think, you know, we want to get to the mountaintop tomorrow, you know, or today if possible. And we just have to be real. Like as much as we want that instant gratification, we need to be honoring ourselves and meeting ourselves where we are. That's the only way you can do it authentically and healthily, like you've described.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of people give up and quit as well, when they're in that valley of despair, when they don't see the results. But if you keep chipping away and keep going, then it's gonna increase. You're going to get there. So it's just pushing through that valley of despair and not be the one that quits.
Yeah, exactly. Not being the one.
Which is why writing down your goals or your wins each day to keep you motivated is helps hugely in this situation.
Definitely. And like not being consistent and staying in the game longer, like, is always going to lead to more results. The longer you can stay in the game, that, you know, you're going to outperform like 99% of everybody else in your industry.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many coaches that qualified at the same time that I did, and there's probably maybe a handful of us that are still going now, and that's like years and years later. And obviously, you know, there's more coaching institutes around, there's more coaches popping up, so we're not the only ones. But it's just interesting sometimes to look at those numbers and be like, do you know what, if you just keep going, you know, that's all you have to do. Try keep going, keep getting better every time, but that will make a big difference.
Yeah,
something that I found really useful, that I think could be useful with listeners when it comes to the kind of the time management piece, is something that we do when we're planning. So like you said, have those goals for sure, but one of the things that we also do is when we plan like our year, for example, we plan in like our leave first. We block out when we're going to be going on our travels or when we're going to have some time out. You know, we plan into the calendar in advance as well, like our personal stretch goals, whether that's a fitness goal or an adventure goal or something like that. So we've got other things to focus on outside of the wellness theory and outside of our business. Makes a real difference. And then also something we do on a monthly basis is like you spoke about earlier, is like putting in that, like your self-development time, your training sessions, like putting it in the calendar so that you don't then overstep and accidentally book something in, and that kind of thing helps. And another thing that I do, and I think I would highly recommend this to anybody listening, particularly ladies, is to sync your cycle with your business activities and with your training activities. This is something, any opportunity, Antonia, that I get to mention this, I do. So forgive me if I end up going off on a rant.
No, I'm interested. I'm really interested.
So there's certain times in our 28-day cycle as a female that we should be focusing on certain activities, right? So there's certain times where we're better at going socializing or doing a podcast episode, or there's certain times where we're better at going and reviewing and analyzing certain things in our business. There's certain times when we should be doing like slower exercise versus like higher intense exercise. And I think sometimes as female entrepreneurs, we do not pay attention to that. Or we're completely unaware of it. I was completely unaware of it for a long time, which is one of the reasons why I get on my high horse about it now, because it is an absolute game changer when it comes to being healthy as an entrepreneur. So they're just a few tips from our side of what we do that helps. But naturally, anybody listening, you know, find your own rhythm, just like Antonia said.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I might read up more on that.
Please do. It will be an incredible addition to what you're doing at the Healthy Entrepreneur, for sure. A good starting point for that is the Elisa Vitti book called In the Flow. I highly recommend it. Any female listening to this, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, read it, digest it, share a copy with every female you know. Please give it to any young ladies that are in your world growing up right now trying to understand themselves. Please listen to the book, read the book, dive into her programs, because it's something that really will change the game, and it's going to change the way in which we start to see longevity of females in business, not necessarily just as business owners, but also in kind of the corporate space as well. You know, there's too many stories out there of women quitting their hustle, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, because they want to start a family, or because they want to do this or they want to do that, and in the workplace. And it's just, it doesn't have to be the case. You know, we can stay in the game longer than the men if we really make sure that we you know, just tune in. And that's one of the things I really love about what you're doing, Antonia, you and Freddie, is like you're just encouraging people to tune into themselves. And I think that's a lost art, and I really love the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
That being said, is there anything else that perhaps we need to add to this conversation that we haven't mentioned already?
Let me have a think. So I think if you were to, I don't know, if I was to give you some advice on how to create your Healthy Hustle week, I would definitely say audit your life, audit your business, audit your goals, and then just assess them. Are they aligned with your passion? Is your passion still sparked? Just understanding to see if you're still on the right track in life. Like, what's the point in getting to that goal and having £1 million if you're not actually enjoying the journey? Because anything could happen. And I think for me, that was having the car accident was the catalyst for that, to realize that life is way too short to not actually enjoy the journey. So great if you've got that massive goal and you're going to get there and you're going to be a really successful entrepreneur, that's awesome for you. But if you're not enjoying that process, then what's the point? What's the point in life if you're not actually enjoying that process and you're throwing relationships down the drain? And I think that's really important to remember, to just remember who you are, stay true to your values. Yes, hit your business goals, but also remember that your health comes first, your mindset comes first. Like setting those boundaries and just staying true to who you are, stay true to your passion.
I love that so much. That's probably one of the things I've noticed, is that when I am the most stressed, particularly when it comes to business, it is always, and I'm sure always, like 100% of the time, because I've lost sight of who I am in the process, or what's important to like our values and our mission. And like I'm certain that's 100%. I need to check out your fancy new algorithm to check that that's true, but I'm sure that that's the case. Speaking of which, tell our listeners about your algorithm that is just launching, and tell our listeners where they can find you and what they can expect if they wanted to come and explore the work that you do.
So the algorithm is, as of this conversation, is in the MVP stage. So it's currently only available on desktop. But here you have daily workouts, daily recipes, and daily self-development, all designed for the busy entrepreneur. So it's all under half an hour, and it's like the workouts would have equipment free, actual equipment within the gym, or like a scaled version. So there's 3 different versions of it. You have recipes, again, under half an hour, all healthy, and then self-development prompts every single day. And then within that, you have the tracker. So this is the actual algorithm tracker, where you can track how much sleep you've had, how much, what your diet's been like, what exercise you've done, how many steps you've done that day, or how many hours you've actually been moving your body physically. So many different areas of the well-being side, and how that directly affects your business. You actually also track your business metrics, so how many sales or leads you've had, customer experience, customer reviews, testimonials, positive reviews, negative reviews. You can actually track all of that as well. You can either do it daily, you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly. It's completely up to you. And then over time, it will see the correlation between certain well-being activities against your business metrics. So you can see like your 30-day review, and there'll be charts on, well, you slept this much, so this has affected your business in this way. It's currently in the MVP stage, and it's actually something that Freddie and I have done for the past few years, but we've literally had it on like an Excel spreadsheet where we've tracked everything ourselves and finding correlations between certain things. And we were like, hang on, like this is actually really useful, because we can tweak certain areas, and that actually helps in other ways. It can help with your productivity, help with your focus and your alert and your concentration and all of that. That is coming. That's currently available now. You get 7-day free trial. Again, only available on your desktop. Eventually it will be an app. And then we also have our membership. We also have like one-to-one programs, but that's all found on our website, but also the link tree on our Instagram, which is the.healthyentrepreneur. And our website is www.thehealthyentrepreneur.com. And then we're all on TikTok and other socials, but it's always the.healthyentrepreneur.
Amazing. Oh, TikTok got you, did it? Oh, unbelievable.
Yes.
Booming, I hear. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. Even if I outsource it, I'm not there yet. I have a very love-hate relationship with social media, but I've no doubt your content is amazing on there, as it is on Instagram and LinkedIn and everywhere else that you're present. So we'll make sure all of the links to everywhere is in the show notes today as well. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we say goodbye today?
Just enjoy the journey, enjoy the entrepreneurial process, and stay true to who you are and your goals and your passion, and know your burnout red flags.
I love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here, Antonia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
If you enjoyed this episode and you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Then share it with a friend who you think might benefit.
Spread the word. That's how we're going to impact the world, by helping each other.
We appreciate you so much, and as always, unconditional love and wellness to you.